Hello, everybody. It is 11:53 p.m. Central Time on Saturday, December 24th, 2016. And for everybody here in the live stream, if you're international, you're already celebrating Christmas Day. And for my U.S. viewers on the East Coast, you're already past midnight. You're going into Christmas Day, and we are about 5 minutes away. Here, if you celebrate Christmas, that is. And if you don't, of course, have a good weekend. I hope you guys are doing good. Just jumping on here to say hi, let you know that I am around. I've been, checking in from time to time, but haven't gotten on the microphone. My family is now on their way home, pulling a late night, and we are hanging out here just doing our thing. So, I don't think... at this point, it's midnight. For me to do an update tonight, I could do an update tonight, but I think we'll probably be able to get through one night here without a full earthquake forecast. We issued warnings last night that apply for 48 to 72 hours across Christmas Day, and I did that just in case, again, if I'm going to be, with my family today and tomorrow, that if I wasn't around, that I wanted you guys to know what's going down. Nothing has changed from the forecast last night. Absolutely nothing. There have been no new deep earthquakes to throw us off on the forecast, and the spots that we talked about the day before have been hit. So check it out. Myanmar, remember how I talked about at the bend at Myanmar, right at China? Look, 5.0 struck at the bend at Myanmar, right next to our red arrow. That's within the range of acceptability on location-wise. Over here in the West Pacific, the swarm at eastern Papua New Guinea has carried on with multiple more 5.0 earthquakes. Additionally, we've got the potential of, in case you guys haven't heard, a new large cyclone, or I think they call them typhoons there. I think it's typhoon. Yeah, typhoon is going to hit Philippines. And check it out. The north part of Philippines has been quiet. Now we know when these storms come over, sometimes that induces earthquake activity. So the storm is currently out here and kind of in between all of our earthquakes, and it's blowing to the west towards the Philippines. So, when the storm passes over Philippines, I would dare say keep watch in central to north Philippines for a larger earthquake to strike as the storm is either passing over or just right before it gets there, like right as the storm's on the doorstep of the islands itself, or right after it passes over. Watch out, okay? And that would only be in the next few days. Meow. Meow, Merry Christmas. Meowy Christmas. It's been a meowy Christmas, it really has, with all these Christmas songs and all kinds of stuff. The cat she loves to sing along. Okay, so that being said, we're still watching in Japan for another additional earthquake to strike on the coast of Honshu, just like I told you about last night. And we are watching the coast of the United States for 5.7, 5.8 activity. And I put a 72-hour watch on that. Tonight is 24 hours. So going across tomorrow, Christmas Day, into the 26th, keep watch on the west coast. And that will immediately then transfer over to the Midwest a day after that. So by the 26th into the 27th, we should be going into the Midwest of the U.S. at the latest. Okay? Over in Europe, nothing of any significant size has taken place today, and that's to be expected. There hasn't been any earthquake activity over to the east yesterday or all of today, and the 4.9 just striking several hours ago, but not long enough to transfer over here to the west. So we do have a new 5.0 or 4.9 right there, you see, at Myanmar, and a big silent area across where our letter D is, and it goes all the way over to the border of Turkey. And then picking back up at Turkey, there's a series of 2s and 3s going into South Europe. So the 2s and 3s down in Greece and Turkey added up and went into central Italy. Take a look at central Italy, guys. Look at this. Okay, the earthquakes that struck in central Italy topped out at mid-range 3. Well, yesterday's 2s and 3 tallied up to near 4, as I told you last night. Well, if you take the earthquakes that struck in Italy today, The 3s and 2s, add those together, that equals about a 4. So let me quickly turn on the Italian feed, show you what I'm talking about here. Here's the stack of earthquakes reported by the Italians today. So if you add that up, that's 22s at least, and a few 3s. So if you add the 22s together, and some of them are up to 2.8, 2.9, but add those 22s with the multiple 3s, and you get into a 4. So expended energy-wise, we're looking at about a 4, or at least a 3.9. So that's expending the energy in the area for right now. Again, down in Greece and Turkey, there's a new swarm to contend with, but it's, again, tallying up to be about a 3.9. Little less than a 4. When you add up all the 2s and 3s currently in Greece and Turkey, that means that the potential to go up to tomorrow would be pretty much the same that we are today. So we'll see another stack of earthquakes tomorrow in central Italy, topping out mid-range 3. Because of the mid-range 3 striking down to the east-southeast, okay? So that's good news. That's good news, at least for Christmas Day. But going across over the next couple days, the 4.9 that I was just talking about way back over here, that's going to push over towards Europe. That 5, it is going to push over towards Europe. So, in the next 2 days, I would suppose. So that would put us 25th, let's see, 26th, 27th. By December 27th, we should be seeing activity spill back over into Greece and Turkey that's equal to at least the 4.9. Okay? So 2 days. You got 2 days right before New Year, I would suppose. You could be looking at a potential to go higher than where you are now. But it's not too much higher. The highest you could go would be 4.9. Because this 4.9 is going to go follow the arrows over to the west and go right into South Europe. It'll take a couple days for that to happen. Now take a look at the West Pacific going over to the United States across Alaska. Pretty much similar sized earthquakes all the way around. 4.2, 4.2, another 4.2, a 4.3, 4.5, 4.6, oh, and a 4.7. So it's increasing as we go to the north, but right across the middle point, all the same size earthquakes. This means there's going to be a swarm of 4.2s over here on the eastern side. See where these 4.2s are across Taiwan and Philippines? Well, there's going to be similar size 4.2s over on this side of the bend. It's going to be compensation movement on both sides. Okay? Like I said, West Coast, you are still watching for 5.7, 5.8 activity to strike where our arrow is. Going down to the Gorda Escarpment, which is our east and west shadowy line there. That's a ridge, actually. So from the red arrow to the ridge, very small area. Watching for a few days, watching for up to 72 hours for a 5.7 to 5.8 to strike. After that, a smaller sized earthquake or swarm will be breaking back out at our fracking operations in the Midwest. That goes right back into Oklahoma and southern Colorado, most likely Oklahoma. Don't rule out southern Colorado after what just happened yesterday. The 4 that hit. Look, yesterday there was a 4.3. You may have missed this. 4.3 yesterday on the coast of Oregon, followed by a 4.0 in the Midwest at the fracking operations just a few hours later, then followed by a huge swarm in Oklahoma a few hours after that. So first the West Coast was hit, then the 4.0 in Colorado, then the swarm in Oklahoma. Boom, boom, boom. West to east. Happens this week, or happens every week this way. South America, same thing we were talking about last night. Pressure's hitting here like a wall, and it's trying to find a way down and around the plate. Ultimately, it's going over here to the Caribbean, and I told you that by Christmas Day, going into the 26th, we could see a 6.0 earthquake striking near this red arrow, the small red arrow. One more day to go. If it doesn't strike, we'll cancel the warning. There's already been a 4.2 near Puerto Rico at Dominican Republic. Or is that Haiti? I think it's Dominican Republic on the eastern side. Dominican Republic hit, and no further activity over to the east, which means there's pressure building in the eastern Caribbean. No doubt about it. It's just a matter of how large is it going to go. I'm looking for a 6.0 range earthquake to strike, based upon all the previous activity over the past few days down to the south. Take a look at it. Let's let it refresh just so you can see it. Okay? So, this is the last week's worth of earthquakes, guys. The earthquakes that are raised high off the globe are deep earthquakes, very deep down below the plates. So get a look at it. I mean, this is a lot of activity. Look, if we were to take this back 4 months, you can go back on my live stream. Just go back through my videos, guys. I save stuff from the live stream. We've been doing the live stream now for almost 8 months. And if you go back, you will see there's a time where I'm reporting on hardly any earthquakes in a week's time. I'm like, look, guys, it's just a few 4s. But now look, it's stacks of 4s, stacks of 5s, multiple deep earthquakes, and a few large deep earthquakes. Following the progression lines. I mean, look where our red arrows are, and look where the earthquakes are striking. I mean, they follow the lines. We're not just getting lucky. It took me 7 years of observation to figure out which way the pressure transfers. It's amazing because the pressure actually transfers the opposite direction than the plates are moving. So if the plate is moving, let's say the mid-Atlantic ridge is spreading, like every textbook says. Well, that may be true, okay? I'm not going to raise issue with that right now. That might be a whole nother thing we could get into at some point. But if the mid-Atlantic ridge is spreading, well, the earthquakes are progressing in the opposite direction than the plates move. There may be some physics behind that. Maybe as the plate moves one direction, the earthquake struck the opposite direction. That could be the case. But whatever the cause of that is, the ultimate outcome is large earthquakes on the west coast, moderate earthquakes in the Midwest, and then lighter movement up the east coast within a few days' time. In other words, pressure transfers from the west coast to the east coast in a few days. And it gives way with earthquakes all the way along the edge of the interior portion of the craton. Not just in the United States, but in Central America, South America, over in Asia. Only over in Asia, it goes in the opposite direction. It goes over towards Europe. So in the United States, it progresses across the United States from the west coast to the east coast. And in the West Pacific, it pushes in the opposite direction and goes over towards Europe. Ultimately, the pressure is pushing back towards the mid-Atlantic ridge. Some people were postulating, and I love talking about this stuff, that it might not be that the mid-Atlantic ridge is spreading at all. I'm not going to take issue with other people's hypothesis. It's one that makes sense to me. Maybe it isn't spreading. Maybe it's being pressed together. The other option is that it is spreading, that the mid-Atlantic ridge is spreading, but as it spreads, the pressure presses around in both directions, out and around, and it comes back to its origin point. So in other words, the seismic pressure would start in the mid-Atlantic ridge, go all the way around the planet, excite things down below the Pacific plate and all along the plate boundaries, and then terminate back right where it started. It could be, but I'm more leaning towards the fact that our deep earthquakes are our growth points, which means that the pressure is starting over here in the West Pacific and going around the planet and ending up on the mid-Atlantic ridge, regardless of which way the plates are physically moving over a long period of time. So it's amazing. It's just, to me, this stuff is really interesting that, we're turning all of geology at least on its head, or at least investigating why the earthquakes are transferring in the opposite direction than the plates supposedly move. One of the two is going to beat out the other ultimately. So the information we have about which way the plates are moving now may be accurate with GPS, whatever, but someone needs to explain why the earthquakes are happening in the opposite direction than we're told the plates move. We've proved that they are moving in this direction. Now we need to know why. That's where we are in this little debate or intellectual exercise that we are over the past few years. So, okay, word up to my people. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. I'm going to try and have a good one myself. Remember what it's about. Of course, it's not about presents. It's not about the pagan stuff. It's not about ritual. It's about just giving thanks for, Jesus. And that's what Christmas is about. Now, the Yule holiday, we could go down a whole thing on Christmas, which is fine. You guys are welcome to do that. I'm not going to go conspiracy on you. But let me just wish you a Merry Christmas if you celebrate it. Have a good night, morning, afternoon, evening, depending on where you are. And if you don't celebrate it, I'm for real on this. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the time where everybody else is at least trying to be somewhat pleasant. It's like the one time of year where most people try not to be the biggest jerks in the world, except for when you're at a family function with a relative who's talking politics. Which did not happen tonight, by the way. That was so awesome, getting to hang with family and not really talking politics. Just, that could be the most pleasant thing in the world. So I think everybody's politicked out. You notice? Everybody's tired of it, man. I don't blame them. All right, guys, so Merry Christmas. It is now officially after midnight here in St. Louis, Missouri, which means everywhere else in the world it's already December 25th, and you might even be a good portion through your day if you're over in New Zealand, Australia, Japan. So, Merry Christmas. Here's to the coming new year now. We're going to have a good new year. I'm going to do a lot, hopefully, if I'm allowed to, and of course, if I still exist this year, assuming I survive, I have big plans for this year. And I hope you guys are all sticking around with me over the next several months to see it all happen. Not just with the earthquake forecasting book, not just with my operation growing the way it is right now, but with a few other things that are not earthquake related, but I still want to get out this year, like the jet engine. In case you guys don't know, I've come up with a new jet engine design that works on electricity, not combustion, and should be, assuming all things work properly, at least 3 times faster than a current jet engine, probably much quieter. We haven't built the full scale anything yet, but probably much quieter, and certainly producing hardly any heat. So a cold jet engine that works on electricity that is a complete different design than anything anybody would ever expect. And if anything, it'll also work not like a jet flying car, but it will work to power a current engine in a car to provide locomotion down a road. Not like Batman's car, not big jets flying out the back of your car, nothing like that. Something that works inside of a current engine block. Okay, so I can talk about this openly because I've already talked about it before, but I aim to do this, make it a reality in 2017. Hopefully, I'm not seeking any financing for it. I can do this on my own. It's something I just want to do and get out. I think people will be blown away that I've also come up with a way to reduce seismic waves so that when an earthquake happens, buildings can be protected. Not a hydraulic shock absorber, nothing like that, but a way to actually eliminate and expend seismic waves in the ground. To stop seismic waves from moving structures while still allowing for the seismic wave to occur and go across the region. So a natural earthquake occurs, a wave comes in and hits the building. Before it hits the building, it hits my invention, and the invention expends that energy without ever intersecting the building. Or if it does, it's going to be dramatically reduced to the point where there would be only minor or moderate shaking in a building in a large earthquake. So it could be applied to large buildings, large structures that currently exist. Doesn't just have to be built into new buildings, but that would be great if it was built into new buildings because, well, that would really, I would save a lot of things. It could also be built into highways, overpasses, and bridges. So I plan on giving that to the world. I'm not going to try and be a billionaire and try and make that myself. I plan on giving those inventions, or at least the seismic expenditure invention, away to the world for free. You can make it yourself. You could, if you want to take it and make it, give me credit for it, for the idea. But I will be putting that information out to the world to try and make it a better place. Now with the jet engine, I think I'm going to try and take that and actually do something with that. But we'll see. It's just a pipe dream right now. It's an invention that I've come up with that I know will work. I've got animatronic working in basic stages with me on 3D modeling and putting it through physics engines, make sure it works how I imagine it to. I've already done some basic experiments where I've ordered some parts and done an experiment in my basement, but unfortunately it worked too well and it blew apart and it flew across the room. And luckily I didn't have any blades attached to it at the time. I was just testing the internal rotation chamber. And it flew apart, and I wasn't wearing a safety mask, and it flew right past my face, and it went and rolled across the floor and hit the wall and bounced off the wall and rolled to the wall again and hit the wall and bounced off the wall and rolled and hit. It was going so fast that the thing just kept rolling. It was sparking on the floor. It's going, it's rolling on the floor because it flew apart, and the inner portion that it rotates, flew out and flew across the floor. And it kept hitting the wall, and it finally, it slowed down, and then it stopped. But, it was amazing. So, again, these are things that it's not earthquake related at all. It's just how I think and what I want to do. And I would imagine a day where you will be driving a car that's not powered by gasoline, but it's powered by a 9-volt battery. Because a 9-volt battery, believe it or not, is enough to provide at least 1 hour of full jet time that's powerful enough to provide excellent horsepower to an engine to drive your car. 1 hour on a 9-volt battery. Now, of course, if you want to drive 10 hours, you'd need 10 9-volt batteries. It starts getting expensive, right? So there's a way to generate 9 volts, obviously. A simple way to generate 9 volts that's currently in most cars and doesn't require any gasoline. So when we're talking about just 9 volts of energy expended to power a car at full speed down a highway, or down a road, or to provide torque in a 4x4, then it becomes something that I think people would want. Not only that, here's the other great thing about the design that I've come up with. It'll work underwater. It'll work underwater, and it'll also work up in the sky. And in the sky, it wouldn't be inside of an engine block, obviously. It would be attached to the wings of an airplane. But it doesn't produce any heat. Like, no heat. So, with no heat, then that frees up, heat-seeking missiles then become irrelevant. It can fly higher and faster. It can fly, just by the tests that I've done alone, we're reaching 30 to 40,000 RPM on the smaller model. And I mean, when I say smaller model, the one that would work in a car, 30 to 40,000 RPM. And if you go look up what a current jet engine works at, like to replace current airliner, like if you wanted to replace the engines on a Boeing airliner of some kind, or Airbus, that it could theoretically replace all Pratt & Whitney engines, all Rolls-Royce engines. Why would you use a big, heavy, fuel-driven, explosion-powered engine when you can have one that works on electricity, like minimal electricity, and is quieter, faster, goes higher, less moving parts? I don't know. So, again, these are all things that I just think about, I like to talk about. Whether or not it's going to happen, it's going to be whether or not I apply myself and make it happen this year. So that's just, something I'm going to be working on. And of course, earthquake forecasting takes the front seat, and that's what I'm doing for the next year here at the house. So, I've got a lot of things that I want to get done this year, and I hope you guys all have similar dreams and ambitions. If you don't, sit down and think of some, okay? Word up. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. I'll be back in a little while, guys.